Are you a jealous person? What about envy? Do you ever feel envious? Well, today I want to talk about that because I've had some ideas and some experiences which really relate to the subject of jealousy and envy. And then I'm going to throw in the conversation around exes because the two of those seem to go hand in hand. And so I'm going to offer you guys some personal experience that I've had with all of that and how I'm kind of different than a lot of people when it comes to things like jealousy and envy. And I'm going to get into what that difference is. What is the difference between jealousy and envy, or is there one? I'm going to talk about my own exes, relationships that I've had, and some of the experiences which helped me get the clarity that I have now about jealousy and envy. So I'm going to get right into it. Let's go ahead and talk about jealousy, envy, and exes.
I'm Dr. Williams, and this is my podcast. I have 2 graduate degrees in psychology, am a licensed mental health counselor, and an expert in the area of spirituality. I am devoted to living my best life and am sharing it with all of you. I'm bringing my expertise, education, and life experiences to you through this podcast. Everyone deserves to enjoy life, and that is what I'm here to talk about. Depression, anxiety, grief, you name it, we all go through it at one time or another. I believe there's a better way to come at these things than mainstream mental health care offers, and I'm here to offer you my perspective and dig into discovering how you can feel good no matter what life throws at you. It is my intention to contribute goodness to this world, and the content herein is how I do that. But one disclaimer before we dive in. Should you decide to apply the information offered here, be prepared for improvements in your life. You may even live happily ever after, and you'll only have yourself to thank. This is Feel Good Now, the Dr. Williams podcast.
I started off by organizing my thoughts and defining what jealousy and envy are. So I looked up the definitions, and actually it was kind of hard to find one that I liked because you know how I don't like when a definition uses the word you're trying to define in the definition. That's super annoying to me. So I did find one. So here's the definition that I'm going with from what I found on the internet. Jealousy, quote, resentment against a rival, a person enjoying success or advantage, or against another's success or advantage itself, unquote. That was the first definition. There was also another one, which is, quote, vigilance in maintaining or guarding something, unquote. I kind of feel like, okay, that's an okay definition, both of those. I think the second one, the vigilance in maintaining or guarding something, I think that one applies a lot in romantic relationships where jealousy is present. The definition for envy is, quote, a feeling of discontent or covetousness with regard to another's advantages, success, possessions, unquote. So you kind of see how they're similar, right? They're talking about looking at other people, their advantages, their successes, their possessions, and basically it's saying that you want what someone else has. Well, my definition is a little bit different. I feel like if you're jealous, then you don't want the other person to have what they have. If you are envious, you just want what somebody else has. It's not that you don't want them to have it. You just also want it. That's kind of my own definition and the difference between the two. I think there is a difference between jealousy and envy. My great-grandmother always referred to jealousy as a green-eyed monster, and you've probably heard that before. I always picture Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty, in Disney's Sleeping Beauty. You know, there's this part where she's all dark and all you can see is her eyes. Actually, there's a part in Cinderella with the stepmom that's like that too. And maybe that's the one I'm thinking about. Maleficent's eyes are yellow. I looked it up because I always picture it green. And maybe that's in Cinderella. The stepmother's eyes are green. I'm going to have to look that up. But anyway, that's what I picture when I think of jealousy, because my great-grandmother always referred to it in that way. And I get this image in my mind of this evil-looking kind of green eyes that are peering through the darkness. Because, jealousy and envy are not really good things, are they? They don't really have a good vibration. It's definitely low on the scale. The reason that I said that I'm a little bit different than a lot of people is because I'm really not a jealous person. Really not at all. Like, I can't even remember ever feeling jealous. I probably did when I was a kid, but I don't remember it. I don't recall it. It's not something that's in my experience on a regular basis. I'm truly happy for people when they have things that make them happy. I never want to take anything from anybody that makes them happy. Like, if it makes you happy, then I am happy for you. Sincerely, with all genuineness, I feel that way. I want you to have happiness. And I would never want to take something away so that you would be less happy. That does not resonate with me at all. Envy is similar. I can kind of think of maybe seeing somebody having something that I want. And based on this definition, I guess that would be considered envy. But it's not really envy for me because I don't have a negative feeling associated with it when I'm looking at somebody who has something that I also want. For me, it more feels like an opportunity for establishing a goal. I'm like, oh, wow, like you have this amazing house. Let's use that as the example, since that's something that is high up on my manifesting list. You have this incredible house, and I love it so much, and I want that. But I am not feeling bad about it, not feeling bad that I don't have it yet. For me, it's just aligning with that energy of, okay, you're somebody who knows how to get what I want. That's not a negative thing. I want to associate with people like that. That's the energy that I want around me because there's attraction that comes with that. So I'm never going to feel envious about what you have, but I probably want to hang out with you because you know how to get it done. And that's something that I want to attract. But really, it's just more of establishing a goal for me when I realize that. So that can make it hard for me to relate with people who feel jealous or feel envy. I'm like, why? Why would you feel that way? I don't understand. And truly, I feel like I can understand a lot of things. I can usually find a way to relate with anybody on most things. But that one I struggle with. I just don't get it. I don't get why you would feel bad about somebody else having something. That doesn't feel good to me. And I would never line up with that. But I feel like there's been kind of this normalizing of jealousy. You know, people are like, oh, I'm so jelly. And they kind of say that in conversation to their friends. And I've even said that. I've said it before, even though I don't mean it. And that's ridiculous. I don't know why I did that. But I don't feel jelly. But it's become like kind of like a slang kind of term and something that we use in conversation to be like, hey, that thing you have is cool. That's really what you're saying, right? Oh, I'm so jelly you have that. It's just to make the other person feel good about what they have. So I guess that's why I said it. But I don't actually feel jelly. So if I ever said that to you, now you know I wasn't really jelly. The reason that I don't like that it's become this normalized term, is because it's still negative. You really can't get away from that. Jealousy, even in a slang kind of way, is still negative because you cannot feel happy and jealous at the same time. It's impossible to do so because you're either at one or the other. Those are two very different vibrational frequencies. You can't do both at the same time. Actually, I dated somebody who was very jealous, very possessive, very controlling. And the relationship was short-lived for me because I had so much anxiety, like so much anxiety. Although I did learn a lot about myself, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but that's what relationships do. They serve that purpose in our lives to help us to gain clarity about who we are as an individual. But what I learned being in a relationship with somebody who was that way with me was that I value my freedom a lot, greatly. I also learned that I know what my worth is. And in a romantic relationship, I am worthy of trust. 100%. You can trust me. Absolutely. If you don't, that has nothing to do with me. And I know that because I know I'm worthy of it. So if you're not trusting me, if you're feeling jealous or possessive or controlling of me, that means you don't see me and you don't know who I really am. And why would I stay in a relationship with anybody who can't love me for who I really am? Ultimately, I feel like people that are jealous and untrusting is because they have that aspect about themselves, right? They can't really trust somebody else because they know what the possibilities are. And they know those possibilities because they know what they are capable of. And that can be hard for some people to hear, but that really does feel to me like where it stems from. Kind of like if you were accusing somebody of something, maybe it's because you're guilty of it too. And with this person, I know 100%, I know without a shadow of a doubt that this person would cheat. And the reason I know that is because after I moved out of that relationship and I started dating someone else, I tried to stay friends with this guy. So I was hanging out with him platonically, and he was tempting me and encouraging me to take things into an intimate area and behave in a way that would require me to cheat on my current relationship. And I wasn't willing to do it because I'm not that person. That's not what I do. And I am worthy of your trust because I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to hurt you. You can take that to the bank. If I am in a committed, loving relationship with you, you're safe. I got you. And this person who I had broken up with and now tried to be friends with didn't value that in me. So much so that he was trying to get me to do that, which would have really hurt the person that I was with. But he didn't care about that. And I think in a really big way, the reason that he was trying to promote me behaving in an unfaithful way was to validate how he felt when we were dating, because he didn't trust me. He was jealous and possessive, and he had no reason to be. But if he had been able to get me to cheat on my current relationship, that would have validated to him that he was right in behaving that way in our relationship. Now, going back to the freedom aspect of that, I believe that 9 times out of 10, when somebody cheats on their partner, it's because they feel stifled and they have a desire for more freedom. Now, when I'm in a relationship with somebody, and I'm just talking romantic relationships specific, I offer a lot of freedom. I trust you. My trust is given. You have it, unless you break it. But right out the gate, you have it. I have no reason not to trust you, so I'm going to. I'm probably more willing to do that than a lot of people because I know my own worth in that. And I know you can trust me, so I'm going to trust you. Because that doesn't necessarily relate to my past experiences. I've been cheated on numerous times. Enough for me to have that fear entering into a new relationship. But I don't, because it's not what I want. Having that freedom, the kind of freedom that I'm offering in a relationship, is important for me to also have. That is of the utmost importance to me. In fact, not having it is a deal breaker. I can't be with somebody who doesn't trust me on that level. Like what happened with that relationship. I was with him. I had terrible anxiety. I couldn't do it. I had to get out of that relationship. It was taking me to my breaking point because I felt like I wasn't loved for who I am. And I felt like I was walking on eggshells when I didn't have to. I didn't need to be like that. And one of the things was that he was upset that I was still friends with an ex. And it was one of my very first long-term, it was my first long-term committed romantic relationship. And I was still friends with him. And I would say happy birthday to him on his birthday. He would say happy birthday to me on my birthday. It's not like we talked all the time, but we kept a friendship because we valued our connection. Well, this possessive person, couldn't stand it. Couldn't stand that I had that connection. And that was a problem for me. I was like, this is ridiculous. I should be able to say happy birthday to somebody and not have you fly off the handle because you're worried that I'm going to hurt you. I'm not going to hurt you. And I reassured, but in the end, it wasn't enough.
Real quick, before I get back to this topic, I want to know if you have a product or service that aligns with the content here on the Dr. Williams podcast. If so, this space could be your advertisement. Reach out to me by going to drwilliamspodcast.com. Okay, back to the episode.
I understand that what I'm asking for is not necessarily an easy thing to give. So I'm not trying to downplay that. I understand people have histories and worries and fears, and romantic relationships can be really messy. And then you carry that with you. You are a collection of what you've experienced. So I get that. So I know I'm a minority in the way that I approach my romances. In addition to not being a jealous person and offering my partner a great deal of freedom, I also try to stay friends with my exes, as I mentioned. That actually was a problem at first with my husband. And I'm not going to get into the reasons why, but he had his reasons and they're valid. They're valid reasons why he would have some fear because I'm friends with my ex-boyfriend. But at the time when it was happening and we were discussing it and going through it, I had to establish the importance of what it really meant for me. And it took some convincing. It really did. And my heart just filled up because I'm just so grateful that I have somebody who is adaptable and really listens to me and is open to change, because he was on the jealous side when we got together and he was showing signs of jealousy. And I knew that that wasn't going to work for me. I told him that, and I told him how important it was to me. And I told him, hey, you can trust me, okay? I am not going to hurt you. I promise. The reason I'm staying friends with my ex-boyfriend is because I value him as a person. If I ever truly loved you in a romantic relationship, then I love you still. I loved who you were, so therefore I love who you are. John worked through it with me. He did. He adapted to it, and he was willing to change that aspect of himself so that we could grow in our relationship. And I married him. That was something that was important to me, and he gave it to me. He said, okay, I'm going to trust you. And it got to the point where we had been together long enough to where he tells other people, like, she's not that person. He knows that now. he put the time in and learned that I back it up. I really am not that person that's going to hurt you. I'm just not. I'm true to my love and loyalty to you. And if that were to change, I would not go about moving on in a way that would be like cheating. It's just not what I would choose to do in order to move on from the relationship. And I don't want to pass any judgment on anybody who does things in ways that they think are the best for them. For me, I would talk to him and we would work through it together. It's the only option, in my opinion, in my relationship. So now you know that I stay friends with my exes, but that doesn't mean that I am friends with all of my exes. There's two reasons for that. The biggest reason, and the one that applies to the most people, is that they weren't able to do it for whatever reason. They did not want to stay friends with me. And so they were cutting the tie, and I had no choice. I just had to kind of move on. The other option is, and this only applies to one person who I dated in college, who I just could not stay friends with because I didn't trust him. And he just betrayed me in too many ways. And I had actual fear of him to where I couldn't maintain a friendship with him. I just couldn't do it. I hope that he is living a happy life, and I don't ever want to interact with him again. Like, that's just the way it is. And I'm not that person. I don't cut ties. I'm very accepting and open and loving. And it's really, really hard to offend me. I am very understanding. But this one just is different. And I don't want to get into why, but it was too much. And so there's that. So if you're thinking about it and you're like, I can't believe you stay friends with your exes. How do you do that? So I started thinking about, well, how is it I'm able to do that? And I kind of wondered if maybe people would say, well, it's probably because you're the one that ended the relationship. And that is the truth. In my long-term committed relationships, in relationships that had the potential to move toward marriage, let's call it that, I ended them. There were varying reasons at the time for ending them, but I was the one that initiated the end of the relationship. And I imagine that's probably true. It probably is easier to move on when you have already established the desire for moving on yourself. But that's not always the case for me. There have been several mini relationships in my life where I've been given the boot and I have been cheated on. I have been lied to. I mean, a lot of things that happen to people in relationships, I have experienced that. I just don't hold it against anybody. And, there's time. Time goes by, which helps with that. When I got cheated on, obviously I had a problem with that at the time. And that was difficult. But in time, I was able to move past it. And I don't condemn the person for doing that. And I think that comes back to that whole freedom aspect. Like, I don't want to stifle anybody. I don't want to hold anybody to me who doesn't want to be there. If you want to go, then go. Go. I'm not going to be happy with somebody who doesn't want to be with me. So I think that allows me to move on from the hurt and wish them well. I wish all of them well. I don't hold any ill will or anything negative toward anybody I've ever been in a romantic relationship with. I want everybody to be happy. But the other thing is, I have this understanding that every single one of the romantic relationships that I've had has served its purpose to a T, all perfection. It has served the purpose of clarity. It helped me to evolve personally and understand who I am and what I want. And that's the truth for everybody. Whether you're able to line up with that way of thinking or not, that is the purpose that relationships serve. Don't you feel that a little bit even? Can you right now line up with that? Can you consider your romantic relationships and how they provided clarity for you? It's actually true for all relationships, not just romantic ones, and not even just close ones. Relationships that you have in public with a stranger, they all serve the purpose of offering you experience so that you can make preferences about what you want and what you don't want. That's why they're there. Other people in our lives provide us with the experience so that we can expand by gaining clarity about what we want. The way we know that is by knowing what we don't want. So when you're in a relationship with somebody and it's not going well and you want to get out, it's because you've gained clarity. It served its purpose. That's why it was there. If everybody who made a commitment to a partner stayed together, imagine that. Every single person would be with their first romantic partner ever. Now, if you have only been in love once and you've only had one romantic, intimate relationship, then you're the minority. Most people date several people before they find the person that they're like, this is my person. This is the right fit for me. My first boyfriend might be listening to this right now and like, well, hey, would it have been so bad? And no, he's a good guy. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the first person that you date. I'm just saying that those experiences help you to get clear about what you want in a romantic partner. And then you kind of just move through life, finding those things you want in people, gaining more clarity, and finding more people as you move on from one person to the next. It's not personal, and it feels really personal. If somebody breaks up with you, you're like, what the heck? Why? What's wrong with me? Right? What is it about me that you don't like or that isn't right for you? It feels super personal. But the truth is, the cliche is accurate. It's not you. It's me. It's all about me. It's really not about you, because it's about me and my clarity and my growth, my expansion, my evolution as a person. Thank you, because you served this purpose in my life at this time to help me get clear about what that is. Thank you. And have gratitude for that person. Every single person I have ever dated, I have gratitude for you. Even the one that I'm not friends with and couldn't be, so much gratitude. I am so grateful. I learned so much about who I am and what's important to me in this life. And you helped me do that. So thank you. People get into this trap of commitment, and people stay together because they feel obligated to, because they said they would. If you have a desire for something different and you stay in that committed relationship, even though you desire something else, you're doing so at the expense of your own personal evolution. You're stifling yourself. I chose my expansion every single time that I decided to move on from a relationship. And it's not because I don't value the person. I do. I still do. Every single one. And that's why I try to stay friends. I still value them. It just means that it's time for something else. And since I'm feeling like it's time to move on, that also means it's the right thing for you, whether you realize it or not at the time. Because it's not a match. We're not matching anymore. And if one side doesn't match, the other side doesn't match. So that means that if I'm feeling like I need to go, then that also means that there's something better for you. How many times has this happened to you? To where you're heartbroken about a breakup, like crying into your ice cream, kind of heartbroken. And then time goes on, and then you meet someone else who's better suited for you. And then you realize, of course, it was the right thing. I needed to end that relationship because I was led here to this place in my life. And it makes sense. That happens to us all the time. And I don't want anybody to be hung up on me. I don't want to have somebody crying over me when I've moved on. That doesn't make me feel good. I really want that person to be happy. I want us both to be happy, even if it means being happy not in a romantic relationship. But I do believe that we can still be happy in other romantic relationships and maintain a friendship between us. We still had that time together where we valued each other, we cared about each other, we loved each other. It's worth something. Ending a relationship with somebody should not be enough to designate resentment towards them, especially for the rest of time. What about all the good things you shared together? Those things didn't go away just because the relationship was ending. And I think that's what I do. I focus on those things. I focus on the positives. Like, I had so much fun with this person, and they provided me with so much clarity. I sincerely have no hard feelings. None. Even for the person I can't stay friends with. Seriously, no hard feelings. When you understand that the relationship served that purpose, how can you have anything but appreciation for that? Both parties. I appreciate it so much. And I hope you do too. So what about marriage or life partners? Even in those high levels of commitment, relationships end. But it's still not a failure. That relationship and that level of commitment provided you with the experiences that was necessary for you to gain clarity about what you now want. You wouldn't have had it without that level of commitment. You provided yourself with a relationship unique to those experiences with that person in those parameters of your relationship, which allowed you to gain more clarity about where you want to go from there. There are no failures. There is only expansion of who you are. I hope that this episode has helped some of you to move on from jealousy and envy and embrace the security of self-evolution and the respect for others doing the same thing. As always, the goal is to feel good. Jealousy and envy won't get you there. A happier life is yours if you disallow jealousy and envy out of your entire experience. Embrace it as clarity. That's the true purpose of every relationship, even when they end.
That concludes this episode, but if you don't want to wait for the next episode to come out, I have more for you at drwilliamspodcast.com. You can learn more about me and my journey to podcasting, find all the ways to connect with me on social media, and there's a button to subscribe so you're the first to know what's new and upcoming. You also can shoot me an email at hello@drwilliamspodcast.com. You are so special to me, and your support does not go unnoticed. I want to support you too. This podcast is my outlet for growth because when you teach something, you hold yourself accountable and apply the information in life. But the inspiration for these episodes comes in a variety of ways, and one of those is through you. I want you to feel like this is your show too. So send me a message and let me know which episode is your favorite and why. And tell me if there's a topic you'd want to hear me talk about. Your feedback applies to so many people, and your suggestion could change someone's life for the better. The best way to do this is by subscribing to the show and leaving a review through your favorite podcast platform. I really listen to you guys, and this dialogue feeds my soul. You say that you're a fan of me, but truth be told, I am a fan of yours. Everything is working out for each of us, and we're all in this together.